Error handling is a broad term to cover ways to handle potential failures in your Ansible playbooks. In our previous lesson, we actually used ignore errors set to yes to handle our reboot task just because we wanted to make sure that the task would happen just in case. The one main caveat to ignore errors is that it has to be a failable task. Connection errors will not work with ignore errors because we need to be able to complete the task and return a value of failed. To show an example of this, let's say that I wanted to create a user, but I want to make the user's password a variable. So I could have a task like testing ignore errors. I will set the user name to Michelle P and the password equal to a variable u password. And then I'll set ignore errors to yes. And just for good measure, I will include another task in here so you can see that it does actually ignore it. So when I run this, it is actually going to give me a failure message that the uPassword variable is undefined, but it will move on right to my next task and it's going to list ignoring because we have ignore errors set to yes. I'll do that now so that you can see how it looks. So I'll exit out of here and do Ansible-playbook-I hosts test errors. There's the fatal message, but you can see the ignoring right there. And then the next task was just an echo hello world, which returns changed, and the play continued on as if we didn't have the failure at all. So going back into my playbook here, another example of error handling is actually controlling what defines failure. And for that, we would use failed when. And failed when is useful if you're running a command on your machine and you're looking for a specific return code, or if failed shows up in the output, you can actually have failed when with those conditions to ensure that the task fails. So, using an arbitrary example, we're actually going to modify the Jinja default filter example that I did many moons ago, and we'll use failed when on that one. So, I'll do shell echo path, register the output of that. And then I will have a debug message here. Stop running playbook if the play failed. And then I'll include failed when, result, filter, failed. This particular task will not fail because all we're doing is just echoing an environment variable. But what you could do is you could have something like echo failed, shell echo I failed. We'll register the output of that. Now we'll have another debug message. Okay, really stop the playbook. And we'll include failed when output dot standard out dot find. And then we're looking for that failed string. And so basically the playbook will stop executing if it finds failed string in the output. So what I want to do is I'm just going to add in another task to show you that it will stop. And we'll just do another echo hello world. So now on the other side of failed when, we have the ability to override the changed result of an Ansible task with changed when. And remember that with the exception of the command, shell, script, and raw modules, then modules will return okay if they have nothing to modify. If we want to keep that sense of idempotency on our shell tasks, we can actually add changed when set to false so that it will display okay instead of changed. I'll go ahead and go to my quick echo and I'll just set changed when to false so that now it will display okay instead of changed. And you could actually couple this with a task to do a modification if you receive a return code after the fact. But in our case, we're just going to add the changed when here. And so now we can go ahead and run this playbook and talk about the output. So I'll use my Ansible playbook command again. We're going to gather facts. We've got our ignore errors, our echo hello world. Then here we have the failed when, where it actually shows the failed when result is set to false. Again, I mentioned before that it's not going to fail because all we're doing is echoing the environment variable. And you can also see that the quick echo is set to okay because we added the changed when instead of having no change when. So that would report as changed normally. So then our next echo is reporting as changed. And now the playbook completely fails out because it found the failed string inside of our echo command. And so it completely stops the playbook execution. And so that last echo hello world does not execute.